Let us now review Chapter 5 and ask some Socratic questions so you can reflect upon the topics and the answers as a review and as a summary of Chapter 5 for making ethical decisions. What does the ethical decision-making process include? Well, it includes ethical issue intensity, it includes individual factors that influence behavior, it includes organizational factors that influence behavior at any given time. And you can expand on the definition and the variables that are included in each of these elements of intensity, individual, and organizational factors. What are the spheres of influence in issue intensity? The spheres of influence in issue intensity could include workplace, the legal system, the family, the community, religion, and the morals that we form either from religious background or from obviously family or community as we're socialized into them during our early years in life. Also, profession, your professional code of conduct could be a sphere of influence in issue of intensity. What are some of the individual factors and how do they affect the process of ethical decision making? Individual factors could include our individual view of morality, our values that are inculcated into us, and we bring those individual values and morals into the workplace with us every single day because, again, national and cultural values seem to be a strong influence on a person's behavior compared to organizational values. However, organizational values also influence people's behavior if you provide training, if you provide education, if you provide reinforcement, rewards, and consistency over time. So the longer a person stays with an organization, the more likely that he or she is going to understand those values and behave according to them. Other individual factors could include a person's gender. So we know that men and women are all equally likely to be ethical. However, we also see that oftentimes women and men tend to approach ethical decision making perhaps a little bit differently because of their orientation toward decisions and how people are impacted by those decisions. For the American society, we see that President Donald Trump is now running the country and responding with certain initiatives to COVID-19 fears and the spreading of the virus. And now we have over 70,000 people dead in the United States as of the month of May of 2020. Now the question is, if Hillary Clinton had won the presidency 3 years ago, how would her administration be responding to the same challenges that we're facing now in the United States? Of course, we can look at basically how the governments of New Zealand as well as Germany, which are run by female leaders, how they've responded. And ultimately, we can compare what approach is perhaps most effective in responses to COVID-19 fears, dilemma, and unfortunate deaths that it has caused in our countries around the globe. So does gender of the leader in a nation make a difference in how effective the response of the country would be towards such real world fears in viruses, or does it not? So in history, obviously, a year from now, 2 years from now, 10 years from now, we can look at it a little bit more closely and examine the men leaders versus the women leaders in how they decided to protect their citizens and their countries. Education will likely make a difference as well. So the more education we have, the more likely we will closely examine a dilemma. Other individual factors could be your level of experience. So sometimes we say older individuals do bring more experience into the workplace, therefore they likely are not required to need as much training for effective decision making because they have already gone through many dilemmas throughout their lives. However, we know when it comes to ethical decision making, you need to focus on it regardless of whether a person is young, older, male, female, or experienced or not. So you have to emphasize these, but nonetheless, work experience does help in making better decisions. Nationality has received a lot of empirical research attention as well. Nationality is an individual factor. So if an organization has workers who come from 20 different nationalities with different cultural variables, then maybe that organization needs to provide more training for these diverse workers from different nationalities to make the decisions according to the culture of the company, according to the values of the company, according to the principles that the company was founded upon, and the principles that they would like to make decisions upon, as opposed to each employee making decisions based on his or her own nationality. And age is another variable. So again, older age and experience in education hopefully helps make better decisions. What is locus of control? External locus of control people go with the flow because that's all you can supposedly do at any given time. Those who are internals, they believe that I can control the events, at least those events that are near me, that happen to me, or my response to it. So I'm the master of my destinies and I can influence my environment. For example, if you believe that, okay, I'm never going to graduate from college, if the government does not make college available without tuition, then it's too expensive. So those forces cannot be controlled. Therefore, I give up and I don't want to go to school because, again, the government is not offering free tuition or scholarship. That would be external. On the other hand, internal people say, well, I know that the government is not offering tuition or scholarship right now. It's not free, it's expensive, but nonetheless, I think it's important for me. So even if I take one course a year, eventually in a matter of 15 years, I can complete my master's degree. But I will do it at my cost, obviously one course at a time, something that I can afford, or whatever means that you go through. The key is you say, I'm in control and I want that education. And that education does not have to be formal education, so you may go and study without having to pay for it and without actually getting the diploma or the certificate, but the knowledge is already here and you benefit from that. What does the ethical decision-making process not include? Keep in mind that the word not is the main part of this question. Well, the ethical decision-making process does not describe how to make ethical decisions. It only helps you with a framework to examine the decisions that you make. So the ethical decision-making process does not describe how you should make ethical decisions. What are the organizational factors affecting ethical decision-making? Organizational cultural factors that affect ethical decision-making can include the culture of the organization, as well as the climate of the organization, significant others, that basically means other individuals like vendors, suppliers, customers, unions, government, and so on, that has a lot more power. In the power of the organization itself, the power of the individuals within the organization, in the opportunity that's provided for people to be making either ethical or unethical decisions. So culture, climate, significant others, power, and opportunity are all organizational factors which affect ethical decision making. What causes the differences between intentions, behaviors, and evaluations? Critical thinking skills of managers and employees could be an important factor in their behaviors and how they evaluate their behaviors, even though their intentions might be good, there could be negative side effects or externalities or outcomes that unfortunately might affect others negatively. The ability to take responsibility. You might have guilt and uneasiness about the decision that is being made or the one you made already. The opportunity, the family variables, and economic variables. You may have heard the classic story about the family variables, where a person who always knew that stealing was wrong, however, his mother was sick and she needed a specific prescription in order for her mother to survive. The doctors told him that if your mother does not get this prescription or this medication, she will not be able to live for very long. However, this little boy did not have the money to buy the medication from the pharmacy. Even though this little boy thought that stealing was wrong, but nonetheless the pharmacy would not give him the medication if he did not have the money for it. So what did he do? He stole the medicine in order to help his mom survive. So family variables, in other words, sometimes you may do something that is wrong, but for the right intentions. So there are many factors that drive a person's decisions in terms of his intentions or her intentions, his or her behaviors, and how people evaluate a given decision. What are normative considerations in ethical decision making, and why are they important? How organizational decision makers should approach an issue is a normative consideration. Fairness and justice are important in normative structure. In core values, stakeholder objectives, all are elements of normative considerations in ethical decision making. And obviously these are important because it is the outcome of a just decision that we want, whether it's applied to other individuals or to ourselves or our friends and family members. We want fairness, we want justice. Why and how does one implement core values? John Rawls, as a philosopher, supported the concept of justice. The liberty principle or equality principle says there are some basic rights and liberties that are afforded to every individual in society. The difference principle states that economic and social equalities or inequalities are arranged to provide the most benefit to the least advantaged members of our society. And we need to seek to benefit and not harm disadvantaged populations. That's the fairness principle. Are we doing all of these things in today's environment, or do we basically do what is most beneficial for us in our organizations? If you are a most powerful organization in today's environment, and you have millions and millions of dollars and billions of dollars, do you make decisions that help others in society that are less fortunate than you? Or do you make decisions that only benefit you and add more zeros to your bank account, which obviously does not help anybody other than you simply saying, I have $2 million, I have $3 million, or in the case of certain individuals in our society, they keep saying, I have billions of dollars. So how are they using those billions of dollars? For their own benefit or for those who are less fortunate? We need to live with certain principles and strategies in order for our organizations to be ethical and to help the less fortunate and obviously make a positive impact in our communities. Somebody said that without a strategy, the organization is like a ship without a rudder. We need to have a strategy to drive our decisions to make sure we make more ethical decisions in order to not harm others in our communities, in our society in general. The only way to build and enhance the muscles of your professional brand image is to chisel it through high standards and ethical behaviors. This is why I always emphasize and say that you need to always police and evaluate and assess your behaviors through critical thinking all the time. Just like when people are exercising, their muscles get stronger. The same is true of you and I regarding our understanding of ethical framework and ethical criteria to make decisions that create win-win scenarios for all relevant individuals and stakeholders in our departments, in our organizations, in our society in general. We know that the best outcomes are likely to be realized by those who plan, those who actually do, but they also check their decisions to see what the impact is on others, and they act as part of the continuous cycle of making progressive improvements. So when you're making decisions every single day in the organization regarding ethical criteria, think about which one was the most helpful to the most number of people in your company, in your society, and how would you decide next time? Would you use the same criteria or would you make a different decision? So we don't want you to experience cognitive dissonance, do one thing but believe another thing, because that cognitive dissonance or incongruency between your action, your behaviors will cause you to lose sleep, and that is not a good variable for your level of competency in your level of leadership in the workplace. Remember that ethical behavior is a skill, so you need to police, evaluate, and improve your ethical muscles every single day so you can manage and guide others effectively in your department, in your organization, and in society in general. Good luck.